Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be about brows. These jokers right here. So I'm going to talk to you about how I fill in my eyebrows and how you're supposed to fill them in, meaning where you're supposed to start filling in your brows, where you're supposed to stop filling in your brows, where you're supposed to place the arch, so that your brow will have a more natural look to it. And then I'll just show you a few products that I use to fill in my brows depending on what type of brow look that I'm going for. So let's just get started on how do I fill in my brows? Where do I start? What do I do? So let me just say brows are like my nemesis. Like I love my brows, but I don't like my brows because they're not even. I've got one tricky eye, this joker right here. It's just a little complex for me sometimes. So it took me a while to figure out how to fill in my brows, how I like them to look, what was the best look for me to where they didn't like take over my face, but then again, they didn't look too small. So if you're new to filling in your brows, do not get frustrated if the process seems a little confusing or complex to you. It just takes time and practice, and more importantly, figuring out what look you want your eyebrows to look like, and then also what products works best for you, because there's different products that you can use, but of course everyone has that one product that makes their brows look more appealing to them, and that also complement their face. So what I like to do in terms of starting out how to fill in my brows, first let's go over a little bit of the anatomy of the brow. I teach anatomy and physiology, so I like to start with anatomy. When you're looking at your brows and you're trying to figure out where do I start filling them in, you want to, I like to use a regular brush, place that brush right at the corner of your nose, and where you see the top of that brush hit your brows, that's where you want to start filling in the brows. So you can see a little bit of my brow hairs go a little bit past it, but when I go to start filling them in, I'm not going to start filling them in right here. I'm going to really start right here. This is where you want to start filling them in. Now, where you want the arch of your brow to be in terms of the natural arch, move this over. You want to move the brush to where the corner, or I should say this part of the brush is touching the corner of your nose, and then the brush is going to go through the middle of your eye, and where it crosses your brow, that should be where the arch of your brow is. Now, granted, here we go. Granted, we're not going over how to arch our brows, but naturally, that's where the arch of your brow should be, right where the brush crosses the brow bone here. Now, where the tail of your brow should end, if you place the brush at the corner of your nose and then allow the brush just to naturally fall over the corner of your eye, this area right here is where the tail of your brow should end. So if I were filling in my brows and the tail was all down here, I'd want to go ahead and erase that because that's not naturally where the tail of my eyebrow should fall. And in most cases, if your brow hairs do grow in pretty okay, you'll notice that they're gonna grow in according to where they should grow in. Like the sparse little hairs I have left at the tail of my eyebrow, they pretty much fall where they're supposed to be. So when you're going in to fill in your brows, that's how you want to make sure you're filling them in. That I'm going to start filling in my brows where my brow aligns with the end corner of my nose. Then I'm going to have the arch of my brow in this area, and then the tail of my brow should fit, or should stop, I should say, at the corner of my eye and then align with the base of my nose. So we should have nice, clear lines in terms of starting the brow and ending the brow. All right, so now let's move on to filling the brow. So depending on the type of look that I want to go to, I might use a couple of several products. So if I want a more natural look, especially if I don't have a lot of time and I'm like, I want to fill in my brows, but I don't have a lot of time to spend however long it takes me to do it, I'm going to use the brow definer. And I talked about this in my last video and actually used it to fill in my brows. So if you're interested in how it looks like, then go to my 10-minute tutorial, and that's where I use it. So what makes this brow definer so neat and different compared to other brow definers is that if you look at this tip of the brow definer, notice that it's a little thicker, and you've got a thicker end point of the brow definer pencil here, and then it kind of tapers off and bends off right at this point. Due to the interesting shape of this brow definer pencil, it makes it a lot easier for you to run through your brow hairs quicker. You're able to fill them in a lot faster, and then it gives you a very nice natural look. Now, if I were going for a more dramatic brow, meaning I wanted my brows to look really dark, kind of heavy, then I like to use the Anastasia brow pomade. So the pomade has a more gel-like texture. So because of the consistency of the pomade, it's going to give you a very dark, kind of dramatic brow. Then, if you have thinner brows, I would recommend the Brow Wiz. So, in comparison to the brow definer, the Brow Wiz tip is more rounded shape, and you can see that it's much thinner than the brow definer. So, I started off using the Brow Wiz for my brows, and it works, but it just took me a really long time because my brows are a little thicker, and if I don't have a lot of time, it would frustrate me because I'm like, I'm trying to rush, but then this pencil is really thin, and it just, I'm not gonna say it didn't work for me, but if I don't have a lot of time, it wasn't the best thing to use for me. But if you've got thinner brows, this will work really good as well. And then lastly, my favorite eyebrow filler product is the Anastasia Beverly Hills Brow Powder. So I like to use powder. I think it gives my brows a really good natural look, but it also kind of makes them stand out a little bit more. To me, I think it's like a nice happy medium between the brow pomade and the brow pencil in terms of, the brow pomade and the brow definer in terms of what look I'm trying to go for. Now notice in the brow powder, with this particular brand, you have a darker brow color and then a lighter brow color. So according to Anastasia Beverly Hills, she's the guru of brow products, she says that you're supposed to fill in your brows, the front part of your brows, with a lighter color, and then the tail part should be darker. And so that's why if you get the brow powder from this particular brand, you'll notice that you'll have two separate colors. I've done it before. I personally like just using one color for all of my brows. I don't know, that's just how I do it. I would say experiment with it though. If you feel that the front half of your brows look better with a lighter color and then the tail looks better with a darker color, go with that. With all of this, you have to remember it's what looks best for your brows. There's obviously some science behind it, meaning that there is a proper way of where you should start filling your brows and where you should end filling in your brows so that you don't have this overly dramatic looking brow, unless that's the look you're going for. But filling them in, how you fill them in terms of what types of products you use, that's up to you. I even have seen people fill in their brows with an actual darker eyeshadow, and they like that better. So definitely experiment with different products. Just make sure that you're filling them in correctly in terms of where you should start filling in your brows and then where you should end filling in your brows. Okay, so if you are interested in seeing how I fill in my brows, then please keep on watching. Okay, so I'll be using the Anastasia Beverly Hills number 12 brush, and what I love about this brush is that it has a spoolie on one end and then an angular shaped brush on the other end. So I'm going to use the Anastasia Beverly Hills Brow Powder in the shade Chocolate, and I'll use the darker color to fill in my brows. So what you want to do is you want to take your brush and your product and then just start carving out the shape of the brow that you want, and then of course filling in those sparse areas of your brow. Now remember that no matter what product you use, whether it's a powder or a pomade, you want to blend out that product as you see me doing here. And the point of blending out the product is to make sure that the product is evenly distributed across the brow. So we don't want a darker patch of the product on one part of our brow and then a lighter patch of product on the other part of our brow. Okay, so moving on to the other brow. One thing that I want to point out and highlight is that when you're filling in the inner hairs of your brow, you do not want to use as much product. Reason being is that if you're going for a more natural look, adding too much product in those inner hairs are just going to make your eyebrows look too dark, just too intense. So what I do is I'll just add a little bit of product in the inner hairs of the inner corner of my brows, and then I'll add more product as I'm leaving those inner hairs so that it has a more natural progression to my eyebrows and a more natural look. So after you're done filling in your brows, you can take some concealer and then use that to clean them up, sharpen up the tails of your brows, and so on. So I'm using the Rimmel Match Perfection 2-in-1 Concealer and Highlighter in the shade 430. And as you can see, I'm just cleaning up the brow product underneath my eyebrows. And I love doing this because it just makes the eyebrow look more sharp and crisp. So now I'm going to take my brush and make sure that the tail of my brows aligns with the outer corner of my eye, and I felt like it wasn't, so I'm going to use my concealer and just clean it up a bit. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching this video. I know it was a tad long, but I just wanted to give you a thorough review of different products, how you should fill in your brows, and then show you how I fill in my brows. So if you liked this video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And as always, you glam girl.